So for today's video, we're going to be looking at the Page of Wands, and we'll start out with the RWS system here and take a look at the card. It looks like this. And pretty much you have someone in a desert looking at a wand, and the wand itself is a lot, well, not that much, but it's about the same size as a person. And so that's kind of an indication that they have some great or some very lofty goals or ideas that they want to accomplish. But they're pretty confident. The way they're looking at the wand, they have a lot of pride and what they feel like they can accomplish. And so this person is not really focused on any of the obstacles there. They have their eyes focused on their goals or their project or whatever they want to do there. And around them is a desert. So that's one thing. They're in an environment that's pretty harsh. There's lava there, so that's one obstacle, and there's mountains in the background. But they are very tall in comparison, so they're above all of that and focused on the wand. And they just have a lot of ambition, a lot of passion, and they can get the job done. So they're not really affected by the energy of this card. So this card is about fire, but they're very much in control of that fire. The salamanders on their garment there is an indication that they're in control of the fire energy, because salamanders, there's a myth that they are resistant to fire. And they got that reputation because they were seen coming out of logs and in areas where there were fires and not being affected. But of course, they're not fire resistant, but they sort of have that stigma to them. So that's being applied to this card. And they do have a lot of colors that represent fire there. And so this card is actually, if we look at the Thoth system, it is Venus and all of the fire signs. So you have Aries. You can see on that altar there, or whatever that is, there's the ram for Aries, and you have Leo, and then you have Sagittarius, all playing a role in the energy of Venus with this card. And you can see she's very comfortable in the flames there. So no matter which one you look at, whether you look at this one, which is Thoth based, or you look at the traditional Thoth deck, you can see that in this case they're naked in the fire and it's not affecting them. So that's one association, but it's also associated with earth and fire. And so if we look at the RWS card again, there are those mountains in the background. A lot of people like to think of those as more of pyramids, and pyramids have a square base, which represents earth. And then they have that triangle for each side, which is a representation of fire. So that triangle, you can see it on the book of the 78 Tarot Elemental, the sign for fire there. So that's just some of the associations and some of the things I wanted to point out initially. One card I do want to take a look at that I think really has a good balance of the earth and fire energy is from the 78 Tarot Elemental. And I like this one because it has these really cool earth tones, but it also has the sun in the background with the indication that this card is fire as well. So very balanced. And that energy of combining that earth and fire with Venus and all the fire signs, it produces a lot of passion, because Venus is very passionate, but it also is very grounded with that energy of earth and very stable. So you have someone here that, even though they have a lot of desire and energy, they're able to harness it in a very controlled way. And that's very effective. And so that's why I think the Page is a very good card to come up in a reading. Of course, the Page can step on some toes or challenge some traditions, but overall they are moving forward and have some great energy to them. I want to read what it says here in the 78 Tarot Elemental about the Page. They call it the Page of Fire here, but you'll see that in a lot of cases, with court cards especially, the names are going to vary from deck to deck. So you could have, like with the Thoth system, it's the Princess of Wands. You see that down at the bottom there. And then with the RWS system, it's the Page of Wands. And then you could have the daughter or sister of Wands or fire, or it's just, like I said, it's just going to vary. But My page of wands. So it says here, my page of wands is now the page of fire. For this card, I wanted to create a strong and certain character, fully aware of their own potential and inner strength. I took inspiration from trees and roots to show the page's ability to grow and evolve into something spectacular and reach a full potential. The flames woven into the page's clothes represent transformation. So also if you look at the page's wand here, there are branches growing off and they're green. So that's a sign of potential and fertility. So there's a lot to the page's energy that I think we can all benefit from. Looking at the Science Tarot, they picked Carolyn Herschel to represent the Page of Wands, and I think that's a good pick because she was studying astronomy during a time when it was very male dominated back in the 19th century, and she was getting ignored. She couldn't get into that inner circle. She was on the outskirts of things. But the thing about it is she was so interested in what she was doing that she did so much great research that it was noticed. And that's the thing. That's the thing about the page, is that no matter what the obstacles are, that interest in the subject, that joy of doing whatever they're doing, it just automatically comes out in the work that they do. And that happens with a lot of people. And the good thing about that, the beautiful thing about that is even if you don't get recognized, your life is a lot richer because you're doing what you really like. And like I said, most times, 9 times out of 10, I think that they're going to eventually get to a point where people are going to have to recognize their talent. And so it's inevitable. Another person, Barbara McClintock, very similar situation. She was a geneticist and she studied corn. This is the Women of Science Tarot. And so she was, again, they tried to discredit her and overlook her work and say she wasn't qualified for it. But she persisted and she won the Nobel Prize. And it's just incredible what people will do when they really just love something. So those were the cards I wanted to show. And I think they did a really good job. That does a really good job of kind of explaining that energy. And if it comes up in a reading, I don't really like to give you specifics about what it means in a reading for you because, that of course that varies on the context of the other cards and all that stuff. But I think the more we know about the character of any of the cards, the more we're able to really understand it when it comes up in a reading and how it applies specifically to that reading. So, it could mean so many different things. It could mean that you're the one that needs to maybe be a little bit more passionate about something. Maybe you're missing out on something. Maybe there's someone in your life that's going to come into your life that has that type of energy. It could mean that you're going to be starting some new project. There's so many things. There's a long list of things that could fall into that category, but I don't want to dwell on that. I just think that having an overall explanation like this is very good. So the element that I want to talk about, because that's what I do, I talk about a element from the periodic table and I associate with the tarot. I kind of link the things together. So that element is Indium. And this card right here is from the Materia Prima deck. It's an oracle deck. And I don't think that it really was intended to go along with the RWS system or anything like that. But when I looked at this card and I read the information that they had there, I thought that it applied. So I wanted to use it for this particular video. And I'll continue looking at this deck in the future and see if there's more that I can get from it. But I liked what it said, and I want to read the information that they have in the book about it. And we'll discuss it as we go along here. So it says that Indium began her true life journey quadrillions of years ago in the burning solar islands of the cosmos and crossed the threshold of the modern world as a spectroscopic indigo light at the dawn of the 20th century. So what they mean by it's discovered as a indigo light is when you put it into a spectrophotometer, the way to identify it is by this very bright indigo light. And so that's where it gets its name, Indium, from. So once discovered, her vibrant purity was rushed into the gleaming arms of the future. So it was discovered a while back, but it didn't really, I guess we didn't really start focusing on indium in our industry or in our technology until a lot later, around 2000, when we started using it more in LCD screens and smaller electronics. And it's become pretty valuable now. So now, even though it's not as abundant as a lot of other elements out there, it is a little bit goes a long way. And so now in modern times, there was that whole transition. It just had a lot of it's just the page of wands is about potential. It had a lot of potential there, and there was a lot of room for growth, but we just didn't see it at the time. And just like with these other scientists that I mentioned, eventually it'll be noticed. And it says, so I'll go ahead and read that again. Once discovered, her vibrant purity was rushed into the gleaming arms of the future, where she let out an almost imperceptible high-pitched cry. So if you bend indium, it has a very distinct sound that it makes. And they call it, I think they call it the Indium cry. And so because of that, they included that in this material here. So that means that, to me, it means that once it was on the scene and once it got to the point where it needed to be noticed, it was going to be noticed. It made a sound. It made an impact. So exhausted, she teetered on the horizon of what was to come. So I guess, when you are on the outside for so long, you kind of have this hunger for being discovered, this hunger for being noticed, and you have so much to offer, but it's just a matter of time, and you're just kind of waiting there. So she kind of teetered on the horizon, just so close to being everything changing. And it says, and saw her existence radically remodeled forever. So yeah, everything changes once you get that new position, or you get to the point where you're in the arena and you're ready to show what you can do. Then it's time to everything really kind of changes. It's a whole new game. So you're ready to apply all the knowledge you have. Separated from her deepest life, asked to forget her past, she began the modern consuming work of efficiency. So that speaks to the nature of how we use indium. Indium is used in our technology, like I said, but it's a very efficient way to use energy. It can harness the electron, single electrons, instead of like with the integrated circuit. The integrated circuit used a lot more of electrons, and it was just more of a waste of energy, where you're utilizing so much more with indium. And so what that means is it cuts down on greenhouse gases and cuts down on things that would affect our environment, waste and production, because we can use less and we can get more from it. So it's a very good eco-friendly type of energy that will play a role in the future. And that really is what set it apart. Whereas the integrated circuit is now kind of in trouble with this whole new technology that we're bringing in. And it's interesting though, because with the integrated circuit, I was talking about that when I talked about the page of wands, not the page of wands, but the page of swords. And I did the page of swords a while back, and I remember talking about Jack Kilby and how when he went to Texas Instruments, he was tasked with perfecting the integrated circuit, and how he was new, and everybody went on vacation and kind of just left him there. And he ended up working his way up and really accomplishing such a monumental task and being recognized for it. And I remember talking about that, now talking about indium, how it's replacing that. We get that same story playing out, but even though it still involves the integrated circuit, now it's the one being replaced by the new rookie, the new one coming through. So that's how it is. That's how it is with a lot of things. We are constantly looking at the potential of stuff and looking at the energy that we can bring in and how it can improve our lives. So that is the information that I wanted to give you. And I thank you guys so much for watching. It's always great to have you here and to hear from you and to know that you're there. So I appreciate your comments. I appreciate all the love that you show me on this channel. And I was gone for a little while, had a lot of things I had to do, but I'll be doing a lot more videos here coming up this month. So thank you guys so much again for watching. My name is Will. This is Atypical Tarot. See you guys next time. Bye.